Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. One of the deals about driving over the road is every day you wake up in a different place. And sometimes you run real hard. When you go to bed, you're exhausted, you're tired, and then you get up and you kind of can't remember where you went to bed at. You kind of look around, and it takes a moment or two to get your bearings. Some of you on here that don't drive for a living won't know what I'm talking about, but the drivers that are on this site, they're laughing right now, thinking of different things that's happened. The other day, I was parked for the day, and I was sitting in the driver's seat watching watching a movie on my iPhone, and I fell asleep. And somehow it was an FBI show on them arresting people, fugitives, and somehow it said, I heard him say, "Stop! You got to stop!" And I started pumping the brakes and turning the steering wheel, and I had the blinds up where I couldn't see, and I was panicking. And then it finally dawned on me I was parked. I fell asleep, and I kind of looked around to hope nobody seen me. But other drivers have done that, will laugh about it, make fun of it, but it's just one of them deals. And a lot of times, taking that a step further, I had a job up in North Dakota, and I had the devils of a time understanding exactly what we were doing, the process of doing it, I guess would be better to say. And it took me a while, but then when I finally caught on, it was like a light bulb went off, and I became better and more efficient at the job, but it just took me a while. We've all had experiences like that where we work somewhere or we do something and we're just slow about catching on. The task is not difficult, but for some reason we just can't grasp what we're doing. It's not we're stupid or nothing, it's just we're having a difficult time, and we're all in that place in one way or another, and especially in our walk in Christ. In in Ephesians, the 5th chapter, verses 13 says this: "But all things become visible when we are exposed by the light, for everything that becomes visible is light." A lot of times when the Bible in the New Testament talks about the light, it's a reference to Jesus, because he says that, and I don't have the passage memorized, but he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the light." And so when I see the words "the light," I think of that passage, and that he's referring to Jesus. Jesus is the light. And continuing, it says, "For this reason it says, 'Awake, sleeper, arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Therefore be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. So then do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is.'" And I think a lot of time, and it's applied to me as well, I was really slow about coming to the understanding that part of being a Christian is getting out there and sharing the word. I always felt, well, that's the preacher's job. Well, as I got older and I understand a little bit more, the preacher's job is to teach the congregation how to go out into the community and witness and bring people into the church house. Yeah, he does that as well, but he can't do it on the level that the congregation can. And that's part of our job as Christians, to get engaged in that. And there's many ways of doing it. You don't have to browbeat somebody. I still, to this day, I can be talking to somebody and there'll be a cookout going on or something. I'll just mention, well, the church is having a cookout next weekend. I'm going to make sure I'm going to make it in for that. And that opens that door to witness. That opens that door to share what Jesus has done in your life. That it doesn't have to be any earth-shattering conversation, and more than likely nothing will become of it. The other person might say, "Well, yeah, that's nice. I don't go to church. Don't care to go to church," and you just drop it. But you've made an attempt. That's all that matters. You make the attempt. Continuing on in Colossians, the 4th chapter, verses 5 and 6 says this: "Conduct yourselves with wisdom towards outsiders, making the most of the opportunity. Let your speech always be with grace, as through seasoned with salt, so that you will know how you should respond to each person. Every person we talk to about our relationship with Jesus is going to be different. Some people will be real receptive and want to hear what you have to say, and others will cut you short and say, don't want to hear about it. And I've run into that too. I got many examples, and I don't want to take up a bunch of time this morning, but I've shared them in the past, the different encounters, and they're also, I always look at them as a learning experience to further my walk in Christ, to strengthen my walk in Christ. Are there days that I'm still timid and don't say nothing? Yep, I readily admit to that. But afterwards I feel bad because I didn't obey. But it's the idea that there was sadness on my part for not being obedient. But the flip side of that is when I do obey and I do share, at the end of the conversation, when we part ways, I always feel like I got more out of the visit than the person that I was visiting with. And why do I feel like that? Because I obeyed and I shared the word like we're supposed to do. So if you're kind of reluctant about sharing, afraid somebody's going to ask you a question you don't know the answer to, I've had that happen. I just say, hey, I don't know. We can look it up and figure it out, or we talk through it. But it's that initial fear of sharing that you have to get over, that we have to get over, and I have to get over some days. Some days I still have that fear, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is. But the first step is taking that very first step and initiating conversation. Like I said, summer's coming up. Churches have cookouts. That's an easy opening to say to somebody, hey, our church is having a cookout next week. No strings attached. Just come and have a good time. We'll have prayer before we eat. Then after that, everybody visits and has a good time. And you'll be amazed at the outcome of a conversation of just asking, hey, you want to go to church that's having a cookout this week with me?